It's time to talk about solutions. It's time to share the vision. It's time to dig deep and work together to create what we want. To expand our perspectives and step out of our comfort zones, ready to embrace the new potential on the other side. I am your host, Crystal Storm, and in this podcast, I interview James Gatsby, entrepreneur, producer, martial artist, and co-host of the Who Would Win podcast. We talk anti-bullying, hosting and producing a popular podcast like Who Would Win, and unique perspectives on diversity and privilege in the entertainment industry. This is the Woo Hour. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to July's edition of the Woo Hour podcast. All right, I don't have many new announcements for you guys. I had a completely fantastic time talking to James. I think as you listen to this, you're really going to hear why he and Jay work together so well on the Who Would Win podcast. So shout out to Who Would Win. Please make sure after you listen to us, you slide right on over there. The information is right down in the show notes. For the other creative content you guys can look forward to from me this month, new video book reviews are coming out. I have not been kicking those out as frequently as I want to, and I'm hoping to get 2 up this month. I am currently reading Altered Carbon, and I'm finishing up a nonfiction book called First Democracy. Really interested to share my perspective on that with you guys. So I'm hoping about mid-month you'll see those. In addition to that, I am diving headfirst back into Synarchy Book 3. And there's a reminder here that I am sharing my creative process in putting together a book. And you're going to find those posts over on my blog. I'm sharing scenes in their raw, rough draft form, the type that, professional writers say that you should never share with everybody. I'm sharing with you guys. I'm sharing my research. I'm going to share notes on the characters, my headspace as I kind of get into their headspace stuff. So all of that over on my blog. I'm also going to be posting chapters of my Dragon Age fan fiction currently titled Her Story more frequently. I'm really just basically going to sit down this week and do a lot of the writing that I need to do and just all throughout the month because I want to get a bunch of chapters written so I can, like I said, update that more frequently. So just wish me luck, everybody. Wish me luck. You can also look forward to audio of my Star Wars The Old Republic fanfiction Legacy. More chapters of that are going up this month as well. And again, everything is over on my blog or on my YouTube page, where applicable. So check the show notes for all those links. And do not forget that if you love gaming, like I love gaming, I am live on Twitch TV 4 nights a week. Our Twitch channel is We Play Games on Easy because, yes, y'all, I do play games on Easy. That's how I roll. Okay, cool. As of the time of this recording, which is July 1st, we are currently playing The Last of Us for the first time, and I am having a complete blast with it. It's a really great game, so we're having so much fun. Shout out to all our early access patrons who are getting to hear this Sunday, July 1st. Your support on Patreon is deeply appreciated. So guys, thank you so much for that. And if you're interested in supporting this podcast or any of the other creative content I produce that I literally just talked about, you can do so for as little as $1 a month. $1 you can support the creative stuffs, and I would love you forever. Maybe for a month, whatever. Don't even worry about it. I'm just saying you can, whatever. Okay. That's all from me, y'all. I need minions. Seriously, y'all send me some minions. That could be cool. We're going to jump right into my talk with James. Enjoy it, and I will talk to you guys next month. All right, everybody, welcome to the July edition of the Woo Hour podcast. So today on the show, I have a very special guest. I have the other half of the Who Would Win podcast hosts. There's a lot of people that are in the background that work on the Who Would Win podcast, but I have the other, shall we call him professional geeky debater here with me today, and I'm assuming that at least 45 minutes of this show is going to spend with him just talking mad smack about Jay, like Jay did to him. So it's fine. We've got like a whole section of time blocked out for that. But James, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. James, introduce yourself to the audience, because if there are some people out there who are just fail and have not listened to the Who Would Win podcast yet, who are you?
Wow. That's a deep question. Are you asking like philosophically or spiritually?
Wow.
Metaphysically? I don't know.
Yeah.
So many ways to go with this.
I know. You know what? Can we just do all of them? Can I just get can we just hit them just boom, like you're debating it, just go point by point?
Sure. Okay. I am, as you said, a co-host of the Who Would Win podcast. I am a very big nerd, both literally and figuratively. I love nerd and geek culture. Unlike my co-host Jay Sandlin, I've actually kissed a girl, so I feel I'm socially superior when it comes to bringing assets to the show. Let's see, I've got a huge combat sports background, love MMA, own an MMA facility in Los Angeles called Max Impact. Let's see, I do a lot of production work, love producing new content, and seeing where it can go for, either TVs or documentaries. And that's it. I'm a huge advocate for anti-bullying. Wrote an anti-bullying book, not because I was trying to become a well-known author, simply because I saw a lot of the advice being given out for anti-bullying was completely incorrect. And I said, okay, I need to put it out there. So I actually have a side business that was completely unintentional, where people come to me asking me for advice on anti-bullying. So that's who I am in a nutshell. I'm a happily married dad of 3 kids living in Los Angeles, and life is absolutely fantastic.
Yay. Yeah. And I can just hear, the happiness and the passion in your voice, and we need just so much more of that. It sounds like you're really doing what you love. And that's also something that the world absolutely needs. So let's start actually with the anti-bullying stuff, because it caught my attention, and I literally have 5 bullet points on my notepad in front of me of things that I want to cover with you. But let's start with the anti-bullying. How did you get into that?
Well, as many of us have probably experienced, I was bullied a lot as a kid.
Okay.
And I was the gentle giant. Also the overweight kid who's really shy, and also horribly afraid of confrontation, whether it was physical or verbal.
Okay.
And what happened was a lot of the advice that was given to me, this old school 1950s, 1960s advice that just was even wrong back then, but is now horrifically wrong.
Yeah.
In terms of standing up to your bullies. Like my favorite one, I remember I was 6, and someone said, you just have to punch that bully in the face. Really show him who's boss. So What happened is I did, and I don't know if you know what happens when a 6-year-old punches a 12-year-old in the face.
Not good.
It doesn't end up well for the 6-year-old.
Yeah.
So that kind of advice, just ignore the bully.
Right.
That also is not a good call when you don't have the self-esteem to actually be okay with yourself. Walking away from someone who's making fun of you or trying to. My favorite is when you try to actively ignore someone who's punching you.
Yeah. How do we do that? How do we do that?
Yeah, sure. So as they're hitting you in the face, I was yelling out, "Hey, I'm actively ignoring you, by the way. These punches aren't as effective as you think." And that was completely untrue. They were very effective.
Yeah.
So I started playing football in high school, and that worked wonders for self-esteem. And then from football, I went into martial arts like a maniac. And I was never really – because I was really more afraid of physical confrontation than I was of what I call social or verbal confrontation, I should say. And once I kind of went and pursued that path for a while, I got over my fear of physical confrontation, and then I saw, wow, this verbal or social bullying is really a powerful thing too.
Yeah.
And my mom had this great saying, and she's one of these people, absolutely amazing person who was a nurse and said, I've always wanted to go into business, went back to school, got her MBA, and just is this force of nature and is now a CEO of a big company in Canada. She's amazing. And she has this saying, which I love, which is, I don't do victim.
Okay.
And I really took that to heart. So whenever someone, tries to, or has, at this point, tries to make light of the podcast or put down something I did or blah, 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 I just think, yeah, that's cute. I don't do victim.
Right.
So this isn't going to work.
Okay.
And what I found was the real key to anti-bullying. You're going to love this. It's all about self-esteem.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%. So delve into that for me a little bit more, because I mean, I feel like a lot of us, and I've experienced bullying too in my life, you have that moment where you just don't have that self-esteem. And, we can all go and we can look at the motivational pictures and yay, oh, they're so great, get out of here, whatever.
Oh, sure.
So, how do we get there?
Well, to build self-esteem, there's the fake way and there's the real way. Ooh. And the fake way, I love these expressions, fake it till you make it, that kind of thing. And I guess there's some truth to that, some benefit to it, but I'm not a big believer in that. The way I got self-esteem was through being put into positions of leadership.
Okay.
So whether it was, captain of the football team, which was to me a huge honor, being like someone who was actively ignored, and shunned from, being part of any type of group or what have you, to all of a sudden people are like, no, we want James as the captain of the football team. That was like a huge thing. To being in positions of leadership at work. And when you're in a position of leadership, you all of a sudden have to realize that, it's the good of the group you're looking after, and you put yourself kind of to the side, but you look at yourself as, hey, I'm a vehicle to try to benefit these other people.
Okay.
And all of a sudden when you see the other people benefit, you're like, wow, I did that. And you start to see value within yourself.
I like this. I like that as a real tool for. I have never heard someone say you can build self-esteem through positions of leadership. So I really like that. You also sound very much, James, like an extrovert. So for my introverts out there who think that being in a position of leadership is like the worst thing ever and oh my God, don't look at me. No, I want to kind of just be in my own little bubble. How do people like that get this level of self-esteem and stop themselves from being bullied?
You surround yourself with people who see the value in you. That's it. Because when people come to me and they say, hey, I'm being bullied, whether it's at work, whether it's within a relationship, whether it's with friends online, or they put out a book or a TV show, whatever it is, and they're like, I'm being bullied, I'm being cyberbullied, I'm da-da-da-da-da. I said, cool. The people that are in your immediate circle who value you, what do they tell you? And I make them reinforce the value they have in the people that are valuing them.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like creating a filtering system,
yes.
Right? And saying, look, the people. I'm not saying that people don't matter, but there's definitely some people who matter more than others.
Absolutely.
Right. So if someone who it matters more to you gives you an opinion, a straight up opinion, in a way that's respectful, you should really value that opinion. More so than, for example, if we look at the Who Would Win reviews on iTunes, there's a lot of great positive reviews. I'm super thankful for that. And there's some reviews that are really low ranking reviews, like a 1-star review, but they offer really good criticism. I'm like, wow, there's a point to that. That's actually excellent. And that's helped us a great deal. And then there's some reviews that are just, I don't know.
Trolls.
Yeah, exactly. They're not happy. Things aren't going well for them, and they feel this is their outlet. Cool. There's no hatred towards that. In fact, I feel these people need a hug more than anything.
Right.
But I don't let that. Those don't have any value for me, so they don't register.
Right. So it sounds like then for you, your advice to kind of dealing with being bullied is to really stand up for yourself, and standing up for yourself is all about self-esteem, and all about that self-esteem is having a close network of people that you value and that value you, and also literally just, putting yourself in positions where, you can see the value in yourself. That's really powerful.
Well, it is. And there's one last point I want to make. And this got me into a lot of trouble with different PTA groups. And
I like it. Let's do the controversial. Yeah.
Exactly. And people were talking about cyberbullying and, different types of bullying happening to their kids and what have you. And I said, okay, let's just get this really clear. What is the most, and I'll ask you this too, what is the most common type of bullying?
I would say the most common, well, see, in now the day and age now that we live in, the most common type of bullying, I would say it's online, and it's someone just, I don't, just being mean to you.
Yeah, right, and a lot of people think that too.
Hmm.
But the reality is, the most common type of bullying. This is a trick question. You'll see where I'm going with this.
Okay.
It's something I've actually labeled as unintentional bullying.
Really?
Yeah. Now, what I mean
Okay.
by that, let's take a bully. Let's take a real easy example. Aside, someone who leaves a bad review for a podcast. We'll go with that, right?
Okay. Sure.
And that person, they know what they're doing. They know they're being a cyberbully. They know they're being a troll, or they know they're doing something negative,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I'm not talking about a review that's like a 1-star review, but is someone's honest opinion.
Right.
I'm
That's
talking about
different.
someone who's just someone giving some nonsense.
Right.
Well, the problem is they never had the intention. Like, if I received that negative review as, let's say, there's an emotional turmoil scale of 1 out of 10, where 10 is so hurtful I can't even function properly because I'm so
Hmm.
emotionally distraught.
Right.
Well, that person never intended to send something my way in the form of bullying that was a 10. Their intention was a 3 or a 4. I received it as a 10.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
intention wasn't there. Right now, what the problem was, it's twofold. That person needs to understand, like, hey, if I put something out there, this could really hurt someone.
Right.
So they have to understand their intentions a lot better.
Hmm.
On the other side of the coin, the person who is the recipient or the target of that
Hmm.
has to also say, well, wait, were they really trying to be hurtful, or were
Hmm.
they just giving an opinion? Am I taking this too hard?
Right.
So it's a two-way process of lessening the bullying that's happening. So,
Hmm.
for example, when you look at something as tragic as, say, bullycide, where someone commits suicide because they
Hmm.
feel they're being
Right.
bullied too much in whatever aspect they are,
Yeah.
the reality is 99% of the time, the people who were the bullies never ever had any intention of that result happening,
Right. Right. Right.
but
Right.
the recipient took it that way.
Right.
So when I talk to parents and teachers, I said, listen, what you have to do is educate your kids to be able to say, hey, yes, if you have an opinion, feel free to say it respectfully. But
Hmm.
before you do, understand what the outcome could be.
Yeah, consequences of that. Yeah, that's
Bingo.
really hard. That's really hard because kind of what I've been seeing a lot just in any kind of discourse that I've been having online is for some people empathy is hard. And it's really, really hard because I feel like we have such knee jerk reactions to things. I mean, bullies especially, like something has triggered them, for lack of a better word, right? That they have to, they've heard this podcast or they've read this thing or whatever. I mean, the Star Wars fans are like perfect for this, right? Star Wars
Yep.
fans are like losing their mind right now, right?
Yep.
So they're just so angry. So there's just this knee jerk, like I've got to get this out. And and online has been great in so many ways. Like it's connected us together. I mean, I really think that if you're being bullied and you don't have that support system at home, my God, you can go online and there's so many of us who will love you and support you and help you see that value. So please come and find us. I mean, but for bullies as well, it's this, you're not even a real person. You're just words on a screen. So it's
Right.
so hard to teach kids and not just to teach kids but just to tell people hey, you've got to have that level of empathy. You have to understand that words have power and what you're saying could have these really negative consequences. So it's not don't say what you're saying, but maybe say it in a more respectful kind way. I mean, I almost talk to me like I'm someone you love, or talk to somebody else just like there's someone that you value, but at the same time they've just done something you don't like, so you need to have a conversation with them. I feel like there's
Well,
just ways we could just be more respectful in how we relate to each other.
when I talk to my oldest son, who's now of age to kind of really start going online and
Mm-hmm.
doing his thing,
Mm-hmm.
I made a very important point to him. I said, okay, look, if you're going to leave a comment, make sure that at least it's something you would say to this person face to face,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's
Have enough
yeah.
respect where it's not like you're, feeling powerful because you're behind a screen and you're not in front of like a human being. And so you feel like you can get away with it. I said, you're not doing that. If you're going to leave a comment, make sure it's something that you would actually say to that person face to face.
Right.
Number two, say something that wouldn't make grandma ashamed.
that's, that's
So,
such great advice there.
right? If grandma reads that, I don't want her, calling me and saying I'm so ashamed of my grandson and so
Right.
I these are just common things, and it's a respect thing that people need to have for each other.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, because I'm with you. I've published books, right? And I've had those reviews where like this is really, insightful. The critiques that you gave me, why you didn't like the book, super helpful. And then you just have those trolls that you're just like what? Where did you come from? And you do.
I know.
Like I remember I called up a friend of mine and I was like, this guy hated the book so bad that I felt bad and I literally wanted to give him his money back. Like,
sure.
Like you're just like, wow, you like geez, I'm just so sorry.
I know, okay, so here's a warning to all the trolls out there. You never know who you're dealing with. So I had one occasion online a little while ago. I don't even remember why this person was just, having a tantrum, trying to, come down on me at my own expense, whatever. They were targeting me. And they said, they made a comment like, if I ever see you, I'm going to, pardon my language, I'm going to kick your ass.
Oh, really?
And
wow.
I said,
okay.
Cool. I said, hey, I'm really easy to find. I'll tell you what, do you want to come to LA? I'll buy you a ticket. I'll film our little fight. And I said, once I'm finished, in about 30 seconds with you, then why don't we grab some breakfast somewhere and talk this out?
Nice.
Yeah. And
nice.
of course he didn't, no response.
No response.
So
yeah, of course.
The reality is, you can always ignore trolls or whatever. And most of the time you should never engage with a troll. I really think that's the key.
Yeah.
However, every once in a while, feel free to kind of show who you are.
Yeah.
Because, by the way, that also builds self-esteem.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Standing up for yourself like that. So
I think it really is just a matter of picking your battles. Definitely
Absolutely.
Picking your battles. Like, is this guy literally just, some 12-year-old, behind his computer just, being a brat? Or is this something where, hey, I need to stand up for myself, make myself heard? And you know what? That can be scary because, I'm like you, James. I really don't like confrontation. Like, I just really don't.
Oh, by the way, it's funny. I actually, at this point in my life, I love confrontation.
Oh, do you really? Now you're just like, yeah, bring it on.
No, not physical confrontation. I don't like
Right.
fighting. Like, I train all the time. I tell everyone, I love sparring and everything else that comes with it. I hate fighting because just nothing good comes from it.
Right.
It's not a good thing. But I love being in a confrontation where someone confronts me and says, hey, I'm not cool with what you're doing. I'm like, okay, why? Let's figure this out.
Right.
Or I have to confront someone because I know confrontation means we're going to move forward in a positive direction.
I like that.
Yeah. So
I'm going to be cool like
afraid.
you when I grow up, James. I'm going to be.
Well, that would be the only way I'm cool, by the way.
Yeah. That's it.
That's you now heard the beginning and the end of the coolness factor of James Gavsey. That is it. I got nothing.
Yeah. This is fantastic. I feel like you should be a motivational speaker, James, and everything else that you do. You really like. Do you do this? I'm going to start promoting that you do this. Really.
I actually, it's funny. It unintentionally, I've had people come to me and because running the martial arts, the MMA business, right?
Yeah.
Half kids, half adults. And, the kids are being bullied, so sometimes they come to me and I talk with them and I make sure the parents are listening so they understand the dialogue we're having.
Yeah.
This is years ago when I first started. And then all of a sudden the parents are like, well, wait, can I talk to you about what's happening at work? Because I'm a former, software guy from years ago.
Yeah.
That guy doing code and type, and when I was 12, I was that kid who was like trying to learn how to code and all that, and spent weekends at the library. And, as much as I joke about, social awkwardness of the nerd culture, that was me.
Yeah,
that was me.
I feel that deeply too. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Takes one to know one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I grew up well. That's all I'm gonna. I grew up well.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm still a late bloomer, but I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that.
That's the best kind, by the way. That's the best kind. And it's so funny. I was at I'll reveal it finally here. I was at a Tony Robbins workshop, like a weekend workshop. Probably about 10 years ago. And there was some of the stuff resonated, some of it didn't, right? So I'm not like hey, Tony Robbins did it. I'm just saying some of it was good, some of it just didn't work for me. But there was one part where they hand out these thick workbooks, and there's different drills and exercises you do it. And there's one part where Tony Robbins says, hey, I want you now to take 20 minutes to half an hour, and there's 3,000 people at the LA Convention Center all attending this thing, right?
Right.
And he says, now go ahead and just write out who you are, not, and who you want to be. And so people are like furiously writing, like I'm talking like a novella.
Right, They're just like, page. Yeah.
and I said, okay. What's the one thing, who am I? and I said, who do I want to be? And this is how much of a nerd I am.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll get this. One word came to mind. I wrote down one word.
What did you write down?
Superhero.
I love it.
That's it. And literally, I closed the book, and I'm like, I'm good. And I'm waiting there for like 20 minutes, and I'm like, okay, this is, and that's who I want. If I'm going to react or act or whatever, that's kind of my model.
I love it. I love it. Here, you're gonna love mine. So this is why this show is called the Woo Hour Podcast. So I probably would have written 2 words there. I would have wrote writer and then a little comma, and then I would have written down intergalactic being of light, and I would have closed the book.
Intergalactic being of light. Why intergalactic?
Because I feel like I have been around the block, so to speak, cosmically. I really do. And for some reason, I just picked Earth. And I'm really been questioning that choice lately.
Where would you go other than Earth? Like, what's your second choice?
You know what? I don't know. But I think if I had to imagine what other worlds and planets would look like, somewhere, you know what? Somewhere that would look like Wakanda, but have a lot of Wonder Womans on it. That would be kind of like, if I could go anywhere, that would be it. That planet.
Sure, that's called Six Flags.
Yeah.
You'll have a lot of fun.
I've been there. It's a good place.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll have a lot of fun.
That was a trick question I asked you, by the way, because if you would have said, like, actually given me a planet out there, I've been like, hey, it was great talking with you, and I gotta run. But here's the funny thing is, as a fellow, I don't know what the right term is, geek connoisseur.
Yes.
The one thing that people like you and I realize is that whatever our ideal world is, that we actually have more control than we know in order to actually create that around us.
Absolutely.
That's the cool part.
Yeah, that is the really cool part. Really, really cool part. And I think, you know what? I really think that geeks are going to take over the world, and I think that geeks are going to save the world because our big imaginations and our big hearts lead to these amazing conversations that I really think are going to shape and change things. I really, really do. So that's more of us just need to just speak up and speak out and embrace the geek and all the awesome things that we're thinking because we want to build those things in real life. You wrote down superhero. I don't think any of us are just satisfied with, the things that we look around and see. We're like, no, we could make that better. And I've got some inspiration because I read this comic or I read this, I read this sci-fi book or, whatever. My imagination is just going and we just put that out there. And that's so important.
Do you want to hear a really kind of it's kind of funny, kind of interesting story.
Let's go.
Speaking of inspiration. Okay, so I'm at this conference. It was a financial conference. I think it was called the SALT Conference in Las Vegas. And I think they, some financial conference. Anyway, they had a lot of really cool guest speakers. This is about 2 years ago. And one of the guest speakers was Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York and, multi-gajillionaire.
Right.
Whole thing. And the next speaker was Will Smith.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there you go.
What a difference I imagine they had in things to say.
Oh my gosh! So
yeah, because Will Smith's really woo woo. He's really woo woo.
Will Smith is beyond inspirational, beyond motivational, beyond everything. Right? Huge. I don't know. Very respectful of that human being for what he's done, what he's accomplished. But what's interesting? So we go into this huge. It's a huge, big setup, lots of multimedia, the whole thing. And I go for the last 15 minutes of Michael Bloomberg's talk only because I want to get a good seat for,
Will Smith, right.
So, Michael Bloomberg finishes his talk and a whole bunch of people get up. And I'm like, where are you going? Don't you know Will Smith's about to come on? And these were all financial people, right? So I guess they were just, for whatever reason, slightly. And Will Smith comes out and gives an amazing talk. It's a Q&A thing and reveals so much great stuff about himself and super inspiring. So at dinner that night, and I'm at with a whole bunch of people from the convention, and they had seen Michael Bloomberg, and then someone starts saying we don't understand why Will Smith was here. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't understand? Well, this is a financial thing, and why is he here? And he's trying to talk about inspiration, And I said, let me just ask you a question: how many people have been inspired by Will Smith? right? And the whole group kind of stops. And this is about confrontation, by the way. I don't mind being that guy at the dinner table.
Right.
And it's a really nice restaurant, whole bunch of, heavy hitters and all that. And I said, how many people have been inspired by Will Smith? Of course, I raised my hand.
Right.
No one else did. And I said, that's cool.
Okay.
I said, how many people do you think, in general, have seen Michael Bloomberg? And I'm not putting the guy down. I'm just being really real here.
Yeah.
Have been inspired to action by something Michael Bloomberg said or did, to like rise up from wherever they are and to make a better life for themselves. How many people do you think have been inspired in that way by Michael Bloomberg? And of course, no one said anything. And it got really awkward at the table. And,
that's awesome.
Awesome. Like,
right.
But it was funny because that was the summer that Suicide Squad came out, and he was playing Deadshot. Right? And he was great in that role too, as he is in everything.
Yes.
But my whole point is superheroes do more for inspiration and for positive role models than I feel 99% of any politician could ever do.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, superheroes serve such a huge role in society.
They really, really do. They do. Yeah. Because they bring out, traits in all of us that we already have, but they just inspire us to be that. And obviously we all want the cool superpowers, right? But at the same time, these are brilliantly flawed people who have overcome something, or they've risen up somewhere in something and become this person. And I love that about them. That's, I really, really do. Like, Doctor Strange and Tony Stark are some of my favorite superheroes because they were they were just assholes. They were literally just a bunch of assholes that all of a sudden, life just smacked them and they had to be something better. So that's, I feel a lot of us can kind of relate to that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Or, if you're ever tempted to not do the right thing, right? You say, but I'm like Batman, and Batman wouldn't do that.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna be like that. What and I'm not saying like that's what I said as a kid.
Right.
That's what I said last week.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. And that also,
absolutely.
By the way, that drives my nuts. My wife nuts.
Does it really?
Oh my God. She's like, look, you're a good looking guy. You're athletic, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But when you open your mouth at dinner parties, like weird stuff comes out. And, when all the other guys are talking about politics or, maybe their golf game or who's playing whatever sport they're playing, you're talking about, hey, the new Ant-Man and Wasp movie's coming out and da-da-da-da-da. She's like, you don't fit in quite well.
I so relate to that. It's wonderful. They're great.
I love it. And I'm like,
great.
I said, hopefully they'll all, figure out, the right way to be and we can have a conversation someday. I'm not going to their level. They better come up to mine.
Absolutely. I love that. Yes. Yes. I'm virtually high-fiving you right now, James. It's
Thank
great.
you. My hand is up in the air. I feel it.
I do it. Awesome. Okay. Let's jump quickly into the Who Would Win podcast. Because if there are people out there listening and they want to, start a podcast, I really think you guys are a great role model. I really, really do, because not only is your podcast really well put together, it sounds amazing, but you guys are like, you should be, I don't know, like a study in how to engage people on social media, right? Because we've got to do that. Like, we can't just put our podcast out there and expect that people are just going to listen to it because it's amazing. It doesn't work that way. We wish it did, but it doesn't. But you guys, you've got a really sound social media strategy, it seems like, as well. So let's dive into this. How did Who Would Win get started?
Okay, so I was producing some TV content for this small digital channel that doesn't even exist anymore. And they didn't have big budgets for shows. They wanted something that was called like a talking head show, which is, people sitting at a table talking about current events or this or that. And I was working, with combat sports, and I said, okay, let's create this show called Who Would Win. And we bring in, fighters, both former fighters, present day fighters, and we talk about fantasy matchups between like Andre the Giant and Bruce Lee.
Okay.
Like who would, and we were actually making some headway to that, and I was going to host it. And what happened was the network kind of ran out of funding, and I said, that's cool. I'll take the idea and I'll start pitching this. And I said, but I'm more of a comic book person than I am a combat sports person, and which is weird because I'm a huge combat sports person, like monstrous. But it's just, comic books and superheroes, they're great.
Right.
So I retooled the concept, and I started pitching the show to a few different producers, and I'll never forget what one producer said. and he's a really good guy. He just doesn't know the comic book world. And he said, "Yeah, but do people really talk about like who would win between like hypothetical matchups?"
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Cool. Do you have 30 seconds?" I went to YouTube and I said, "Here are three different, things."
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like epic rap battles and
Oh, those
history.
are great. I
Aren't
love
they
those.
amazing?
Oh, they're so
Um,
good.
you know,
Have you
right?
seen the Disney princess ones? Because those are
Oh,
amazing
jeez,
too. Oh my god,
they're insane. I
I
love the
can't.
Superman versus Goku one. That's my
Oh
favorite
my
one.
god. Oh my god, it's so good.
Right? So I showed him that, and I'm like, look, hundreds of millions of views. I showed him death battles from like Screw Attack. I said, there you go, hundreds of millions of views. I mean, I showed him in like 30 seconds that there was proof just on YouTube of over 1 billion views of
Right.
similar content.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, but I'm still not sure. And we need and when you create a show, it's not like people have heard ideas all the time. It's how you execute the idea.
Right. Right.
So they said, well, we want to see how you would execute it. Like, show us some proof that you could actually pull this off. And I said, all right, fine. I'll start up a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as I left the meeting, I said, I have no idea how to start up a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
No clue.
Right.
So what I did is I said, let me make this a segment of a podcast.
Okay.
So I approached a podcast. It was called The Comic Noob Show. Great podcast. They discuss comic books and they take a look at previous comic books. And we were just a segment.
Mm-hmm.
And it got some good traction. And then after a while, I'm like, this needs to be its own show.
Mm-hmm.
And I connected with Ray Harford, who ran like the Naked Porch podcast, awesome podcast, just like current events, laughing at a whole bunch of different, just awesome podcast. And he said, we need another person who has a different style, who also will really take this seriously, like really research characters and bring it. Mm-hmm. So we were talking with Jay Sandlin at the time, and we're like, yeah, Jay's the perfect guy for this. And also Jay is, I can't put down Jay. I really can't. He's an awesome guy, great writer, published a book. He's got another book coming out, and just a really good human being, good dad, good husband, just a good, solid guy. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing is all three of us all had the shared vision of creating something very real, very significant. Mm-hmm. And that's the key, is that when you create a podcast, you need commitment.
Yeah, you really
more
do.
than anything, because, and we've only been a podcast since last August.
Oh wow,
that's it. So the reason why I think we're doing as well as we are, and we're very thankful for that, is because again, we all take this very seriously, and I'm creating a proof of concept for something much bigger, which I'll reveal hopefully in a little while.
Right.
And
stay tuned, everybody.
Stay tuned. But also, we, I said, guys, we need to have some goals here. We're all putting our time into this. We need to monetize, so we need sponsors.
Right.
And we need to sell the sponsorships. And one thing I will say to people, engagement. There are certain social media platforms I think that are better for podcasting than others.
Okay. What would those be?
The top one, I think, by far, is Twitter.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The amount of downloads, listens, and subscribers we have gotten, the conversion rate from Twitter to podcast subscriber, it's been phenomenal for us. And I've talked to other podcasters who also agree, and they think the secondary platform is Facebook.
Interesting.
And,
okay.
Yeah, and I've kind of fallen out of love with Facebook.
Yeah, I have too. Yeah.
I'm just not a huge fan of
just
how they...
I'm really just over it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, wow, cool. You had another really nice sandwich for breakfast. That's fantastic.
Yeah. My engagement, once I kind of took Twitter seriously and started really pushing it, my engagement on Twitter has been 1,000 times better than trying to screw around with Facebook. So, but that's interesting.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Correct. And here's the thing. So, Twitter... When I was talking with some other PR people, and they said, well, which platform should really focus on our client, and when they make announcements and all that, and I said, it's Twitter. Mm-hmm. And they're like, why? I said, I don't know. When's the last time you read, I hate to say it, President Trump's comment on Facebook?
Right.
He doesn't. I don't even know if he posts there. I have no clue.
God.
Right. When's the last time someone lost their TV show with a Facebook post?
Right.
So Twitter is an extremely powerful platform. So that's why and I don't want to speak on behalf of my partners of the show. That's why I decided to focus solely on Twitter for now. So, and the engagement came because what I started to do is ask people one simple question whenever they made a comment. I asked them why.
Yeah.
That's it. So
Yeah,
when people
just why.
said I didn't like that movie, I'd say that's interesting. Dot dot dot. Why? Question
Mm-hmm.
mark.
Yeah.
And what people and I'm guilty of this too. People on social media, what do they really want? They want attention
Mm-hmm.
and validation.
Absolutely. We do.
So
We did that. We're all
right,
drama queens. We are all drama queens on social media. You
I'm
are.
the
It's
biggest
okay.
drama queen I know. Right,
I'm
exactly. So
saying,
when you
diva it
have
up. Mm.
bingo, bingo, and when I'm just laughing because like I don't know how I do the diva. Actually, now I do. Okay, so what I do on Twitter is I want validation and I want some attention, so I
Mm-hmm.
will give that to other people too.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
And I'll also when I see something I'm not crazy about, 99% of the time I'll disagree, but I'll say that respectfully. I'll say, I see where you're coming from,
Yeah.
but I disagree with this. Why do you think the way you do?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that, right?
Go ahead. No, I've just gotten better at picking my battles on that. Definitely.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah, but you guys are just so good at the engagement. So Twitter's a really fast moving platform, like all the time, like sometimes I even have to be like, what's going on with Who Would Win today? Let me just go find them, to make sure that I see what's going on in my Twitter feed. But you've made such a lasting impression, right, that I remember to do that. So what would you say to somebody who's just starting out and they're trying to, Twitter's great. It absolutely is. But it seems like you got to tweet a lot to be in the conversation. So is it literally just a matter of, I got to schedule 1 million tweets a day, or would you promote, like you said, kind of engaging with people as well? Kind of what's the Who Would Win strategy there?
Well, that's an interesting question. So there's not actually a who would win strategy. Jay has his own strategy.
Okay.
And I have mine. And
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And what it is about making sure that if people engage with the show, because you got to think about it this way. There's 3 immediate brands with the show. There's the Who Would Win show.
Mm-hmm.
There's Jay's personal brand,
mm-hmm.
and then my brand.
Yes. Okay.
And there's definitely a synergy, but at the same time, one thing we talked about was, listen, I'm going to promote Jay nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
And Jay does a great job promoting me too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You guys do, yeah. It's a very nice cohesion there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have other people which I'll do the same thing for, yourself included. Right? Because there's, first of all, when you're around good people and positive people, you want to promote them. You're happy for their success.
Absolutely.
Right? So one thing that's really important when you first get started is to not just like and retweet, but comment in a positive way.
Absolutely.
On what people are saying. Absolutely. As long as it's legit and organic.
Yeah.
And what'll happen is they'll take notice. They'll probably start to follow you back, and they'll start commenting on your stuff. Now, allow that process to be like about 6 months. That's all I did. And then all of a sudden, I've got this following. And also, pick a topic or brand yourself in a certain way. Like, I don't know of anyone who's more, how can I put it, passionate as a group of people than, comic book, sci-fi, and fantasy people.
Yeah, it's true. It's
right.
True.
Maybe outside of people who are like so into politics.
Yeah.
But even that's just kind of like, it's almost like disturbing.
Yeah, a little bit.
See that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's great about I'm going to call our society, what you and I are into, right? This either culture or subculture, is that you and I can disagree on whether we like that comic book or if that superhero is cool or not. But at the end of the day, we'll still be very cool with each other.
Absolutely.
That's what I love about our group, our society.
Yes. I'm thinking too, because I was reading yesterday, I was scrolling through, obviously I'm scrolling through my Twitter feed and I'm looking at stuff, and I'm trying to be more interactive as well with people, not just liking and retweeting something, but having a comment on it. Because, I'm watching my feed as well. I'm like, it's great that you like that, but can you say something? Right. Oh, it's great that you retweeted that, but can you make a comment? Like, can I get some feedback? So I'm trying to do that more and more too, right? It's like, give out what you're trying to get back in. Very easy, so easy. And I was watching, like, nothing ignites, there are things that just ignites my nerd rage, and nothing ignites my nerd rage more than Alien 4 and The Last Jedi. Both of those things literally just ignite my nerd rage. And I was scrolling through and I saw that someone had up this whole like little article about Mark Hamill had recently just said something about The Last Jedi, and everybody, like all the people who love the movie, were like frolicking to this and like using it as justification for why this movie was amazing. And I'm just like, oh my God. I just scrolled right past it. I'm like, you know what? Just let people love what they love. I love that you love Star Wars because I love Star Wars. Let me just not.
Well,
You know?
I got into it over The Last Jedi.
Oh, I have to. Yeah.
Right.
I have
And
to.
here's what I've never said about The Last Jedi. I've
Mhm.
never said it's a bad film.
Okay. Okay.
I've said I don't like it
Mm-hmm.
overall,
Yep.
but I've never said it's a bad film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's a really important distinction. I don't want to insult, like, who was that actor who she took herself off of?
Marie Tran. Yeah.
Marie
Yeah.
Tran,
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, did I like her character? No,
Yeah.
I didn't. I was not a fan of her character.
Right.
Did she do exactly what the director and producers and writers want her to do?
Oh yeah, she killed
That
it.
of course, she
Yeah.
killed it in that role in terms of executing exactly, I think,
Right.
the vision of what they wanted.
Right.
Now,
Absolutely.
that's not on her. That the vision,
Right.
you know what I mean? That's not on
Right.
her. Years ago, I was in Montreal, right after. Remember the George Clooney Batman?
I do.
Okay. We all do,
The-
right? Like,
okay, it was so bad, but he looked so good in that outfit. I don't even care. I'm
Oh.
a huge George Clooney fan. Don't even care.
is that the one with the bat nipples? Is that what did it for you?
Did that? What you know? What I don't even think it was the bat nipple. He's just got such a sexy voice, and just seeing him like all Bruce Wayne'd up and like in that Batman, it just did it for me. It just
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, I actually thought he was a good Bruce Wayne.
yeah,
thought
yeah,
he was
I did. Yeah, he was.
As
He
Batman, I was
just
like, ugh. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm a few months later. I'm in Montreal,
uh-huh.
right? And I'm originally from that area of Canada anyway, so it's not a big deal. So I'm in Montreal, and I'm at some like I think it was like a really nice restaurant / bar for some downtown Montreal, and I'm with some friends, whatever. And George Clooney walks in with a few people,
Mm-hmm.
and I look at him, and I'm a Batman fanatic,
Right.
and I felt what that film was just sacrilege. It was horrible
Yeah.
to
it
what
was.
it did to Batman.
Yeah.
And I look at him, and he looks at me, and I guess he saw like the anger, so he quickly put himself behind. And this is horrible. And if I ever meet him, and not that he'd ever remember that, I would apologize for that,
Mhm.
because what I did is I'm like, you ruined Batman. You ruined it. This is before I got into production and understood how it works.
Right.
He didn't ruin Batman.
No.
He executed the vision
Right.
that the writers, producers, studio,
Exactly.
everyone,
Exactly.
director wanted him to do.
Yeah.
So let me get back to the Star Wars film. I felt like it's Adam Driver, right? Who's the actor for Kylo Ren?
Yes.
Okay, Adam Driver's an amazing actor.
Oh yeah, phenomenal.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I call Kylo Ren Kylie Ren. That's my running joke. It's Kylie Ren because I feel like Kylie Ren is like the Star Wars version of the Kardashians.
Love it.
Right? If you think
Love
about it,
Yeah.
they're very fortunate to have
Mhm.
what they have. They were
Mhm.
born into a lot. They work at their success, but they were born into this world,
Yeah.
and they didn't have to come up from humble beginnings to get there.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
there may be some entitlement too.
Absolutely.
And I said that's Kylo Ren. Sorry, it's Kylo Ren.
Mm-hmm.
And I also felt as if how he fought was horrible. And I'm not talking because I'm an MMA guy. I'm also I've done a lot of sword training. I work with a lot of amazing stunt people who are in like the thick of things when it comes to Marvel films and what have you. And
I
we
want
all
to learn how to
agreed, like,
sword fight. This is so
oh my
like
God.
a life goal. I need to learn how to sword fight.
It's a necessary skill
Yeah.
to cope in today. It's not a necessary skill at all. It's just a fun thing to do. But
Yeah. No, it's necessary. It is. I understand. It's
yeah, and I also said that I felt like the character of Rey was actually fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Rey was amazing. Rey is a welcome addition to Star Wars.
Yeah.
But when it came to Luke Skywalker, I'm like, who thought this was a good idea?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like who thought this was a good idea? So anyway, my whole point is, I think what people need to do is avoid going after the actors
Yes.
who play the roles
Absolutely.
and go after the decision makers who thought it was a good idea. And by the way, my other theory about why Solo didn't do as well as it should have,
Mm-hmm.
one of them is two reasons. Number one, people were really not happy with the direction of Star Wars from The
Mhm.
Last Jedi.
Right.
And secondly, why would you want to go see a movie about someone you know is ultimately going to die in one of the films?
It's also a really good point.
Like whenever I was watching Solo and Han Solo's like in the Millennium Falcon, like, oh no, are they going to get out of this perilous situation? Of course he is. He
Right.
shows up later.
Yeah,
fine.
we know he does. Yeah, he's okay.
Yeah.
He's okay.
Good.
For me, it was I just didn't need to see his origin story. Like that wasn't. I mean, that just it just wasn't a story that I wanted. That I needed to learn about. Like eventually, I'm gonna go see it. Or no, I'm gonna not go see it. I'm going to see it because I'm a Star Wars fan, right? I'm gonna freaking watch Han Solo. but it wasn't just like Rogue One, like that was interesting to me. Like, how
Amazing
did they
film.
right, that was so good. Like, how did they get the plans to the Death Star? Like, that to me, yes, tell that story. Han Solo, like, I love Han Solo. I love him to death. Like, he was a great character, love it. But I just didn't need to go on, like a preteen adventure with him. Like, I just didn't.
Right. Well, you know what? You'll be very happy with the movie because they capture a lot of the original Star Wars spirit.
Very cool. Very cool. That is very cool. So maybe it'll make me happy because I'm still salty about The Last Jedi, and I probably will be forever. And now I know how everybody who watched the prequels felt.
Yes.
Now I know. Now, because I do not have the anger that people have for the prequels. I mean, I don't, I didn't, like, when I sit down to watch Star Wars, like, I generally skip the first two because I like Revenge of the Sith, so I'll watch that one. But
Sure.
the other two, I'm just like, no, I don't really need to watch those when I'm on my Star Wars marathon. I could just skip right over those.
In the Phantom Menace, right, when Darth Maul appears, and it's really cool. I'm watching this with my son, right? This was a few years ago, and he looks at me. He's like, "Dad, why are you so angry right now?" Like, you can see I was physically. I said, "Okay, pause it. Okay, look, there's Darth Maul. He's facing off against two Jedi, right? Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor, right there.
Right.
And I said, how many people are behind him? There's like a dozen people armed with like guns.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 14 or so people, whatever the number is, and two Jedi, and all of a sudden Darth Maul shows up with that double-edged lightsaber, which is really cool. I'm like, okay, so you're in a military conflict. What do they decide to do? Okay, everyone with the guns, you go over there. We'll take on this guy. And what should have happened was, the two Jedi should have said, hey, everyone with the guns, just let us get out of the way first. Have at this guy, and we'll be your backup.
Shoot that guy, right? Exactly.
Yeah, shoot him. He doesn't even have a gun. Just keep your distance. Keep shooting, and if he does anything weird with the Force, we'll jump in.
Right. I feel like the prequels too are a really good lesson in who fans, and George Lucas they really have gone after him, but poor George Lucas.
Yeah.
But I'm always remembering because Natalie Portman is an amazing actress. Like, there is nothing that Natalie Portman is in that I will not go see because she's just phenomenal. Like, she can act like out of a paper bag. Like, she's ridiculous. But she tells the story that after the prequel, she couldn't get work. She literally could not get hired. And I'm like, that's not on her. That's because she could. I think she was a great choice as Padme. I just think that other things let her down in those films. But I just, as far as like, if you want to pick somebody to be Padme, I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, Natalie Portman. Absolutely. She's so good. So it's just, Star Wars fans who were attacking Marie Tran, shame on you. Like, we can all be salty about different Star Wars things, and we all are. But I mean, like, calm down. Just no. Right. Just don't do that. Just don't do that. That's crazy.
Exactly. So
get better. All right. So we've got time left. So I want to. You gave me some bullet points of other topics that you wanted to cover. So I want to segue into any one of those. What's kind of near and dear to you that you want to jump into next? What do you want to talk about, James?
I think we need to address the term diversity.
You think we need to address the term diversity? Okay, let's do that one. Go. I'm ready.
Okay. Diversity is extremely necessary, especially in the entertainment world.
Okay. Expand on that for me. Why?
Sure. Without diversity, we wouldn't have had Superman.
Wow. That's
okay. I don't know. Do you know the backstory of the creator?
No, and I'm about to expand on that too, because, isn't Superman just like, I don't know, like just a privileged white guy?
That's what a lot of people think. So, he was created by, it was like Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who were both kids of Jewish immigrants.
Okay.
Right? So they were, I'm not sure if it's first or second generation Americans. And they came from nothing. Like nothing. And their parents came from less than nothing. And what they did is create a character. They said, who could we look up to that if, this person was our champion, who would they be? What would this person be? I'm not necessarily saying it was a Jewish champion or whatever, but they were like, two Jewish kids were like, guys were like, who would be our champion? And they created this character that had never been seen before. Right, that there weren't superpowered beings in comic books up until the late 30s,
Oh, wow.
right? Or at least not a whole lot.
Okay.
So thanks to diversity and somehow them getting in the door of publishing or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
they created Superman, who was the vision of a hero for Jewish immigrants who came from nothing. And these immigrants, by the way, the parents of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster came from like Eastern Europe, where people were like coming after Jews pretty harsh. This is before World War II. There was a lot of anti-Semitism in that part of Europe. Well, in other parts of Europe too.
Right.
So,
Right.
right. So you can see the parallels with today and the necessity. Like if you and when I look at diversity, when I see diversity, I actually think of a different term. I think of diversity as different perspectives.
I like that. Okay,
Right?
continue. Okay.
Okay. So I like to use the Superman example whenever when someone says like, "Oh, Marvel's pushing diversity on us," and da da da, and I said, "Yeah, and here's what happened when diversity was first, unintentionally used. We had Superman,
Mm-hmm.
Wonder Woman,
Mm-hmm.
a whole bunch, a slew of great characters because it's different perspectives.
Yeah.
And I was talking with someone a little while ago. I think you and I discussed it too. The character of Miles Morales,
Okay.
amazing character,
Mm-hmm.
love the character. However, how many Latin American superheroes are there right now that you could name in Marvel or DC?
I can't. Not off the top of my head. No.
Right.
I'd have to go. I'd have to go and look it up. Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? How many
Mm-hmm.
Muslim superheroes are there?
Yeah. I don't think there are any.
I think there's two that I can name.
There's two.
Two.
Okay. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And, in today's political and cultural landscape,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to get acceptance for
Mm-hmm.
any group of people,
Mm-hmm.
make someone from that, make a superhero
Mm-hmm.
a representative from that group.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
then put them with an already established group of superheroes with significance.
Yes. 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 Let me ask you, James, when you hear somebody say, why is this diversity being quote unquote forced on us, which that literally just kind of drives me crazy. Like, okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, what do you say to those people? Because it's almost, I try to have a lot of empathy. I really, really do. But some mindsets kind of blow my mind. And that's kind of one of them. Like this feeling of, I don't know, it's almost like they're threatened by the fact that things are branching out when they've already branched out. But what's the harm in letting these superheroes represent someone that doesn't necessarily look like you, but looks like someone else or lives like someone else? So kind of, what is your response to that?
I asked the person, why are you so insecure?
That's a good question.
That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. Like, what does it matter to you?
Mhm.
How are you negatively affected?
Right.
Now, the answer I'll typically get back is, well, I already like this character, and why'd that character have to change? And then I'll turn to them and say, are you the same person you were 5 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Things change, but things can be better, and things can be maybe not as good, but change is necessary.
Absolutely.
Like extremely necessary, especially in our industry.
Yeah, has to. It can't be stagnant. Stop rebooting things. Make new things.
Yeah, and okay. Do you mind if I get really controversial?
No, please do. Absolutely.
All right,
Let's go.
cool, great.
Do it.
Here we go. So, I was talking with another group of people, and they're not friends of mine, but they were saying like, it's some of them are white and saying it's really hard to be a white male in LA in terms of getting work and everything. And I just said, I finally had enough, and I just said, okay, do you know what really happens? Because I don't know if you can tell by my picture,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually a white guy too.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's
You
crazy.
are so
And-
like the stereotypical white. When you say that you like do MMA and I'm looking at your picture, I'm like, yeah, that's totally an MMA guy. Would not have attached nerd to you. Never.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And I'm trying not to say thank you, but thank you.
Yeah.
And because there's still negative associations when you say the word nerd with a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So with this group of people, I said, look, let me just be really frank. Do you know what happens to white guys in our industry who work really hard and who are really talented? And they're all like, oh yeah, we don't get work. And I said, no, you're wrong. We're fine.
Yeah.
we get lots of work. We have lots of opportunity. The reason why is because whenever someone is in a position of, I don't know, authority, decision-making power, has money to spend on a business, of course, we hire who we're familiar with, but we also want to hire people that are good or great at what they do.
Right.
That's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. And if you are good or especially great at what you do, mm-hmm. you're not going to be out of work. You're not going to lose your position in wherever you are. You're not. And if some reason it does happen, guess what? You'll get rehired very quickly if you are great at what you do.
Interesting. Now, let me ask you that. James, do you think you have that perspective because you look like the stereotypical white guy?
I don't think so, because, the term white privilege is thrown around a lot throughout
mm-hmm.
LA.
Yep.
And, the bottom line is I've often accidentally or unintentionally found myself like one person was making a comment to me about how, this one production entity I hired to finish up one TV show I'm working on, mm-hmm. They're not white. And this other group is not white, and it's a mix of Asians from all over and people who happen to be black and people who are Latin American. Mm-hmm. And they said, did you purposely do that? And I said, no, I just went for who were the best people for the job.
Okay.
That was it. And I don't know. And again, one thing my parents made very clear to me from a young age mm-hmm. is that it's character that you need to look for.
I like that. And I like that you do that. But it's interesting to me because it seems to be in conflict with some of the narrative surrounding, let's just take Hollywood, for example, because we're talking about the entertainment industry, okay? So, for example, the narrative in Hollywood and what I'm hearing that's trying to change in Hollywood, especially in line with diversity, is that just because you are particularly talented or good at something doesn't mean that you'll get the job. It sounds to me like what's going on in Hollywood is that it's always been a fight for people who were not white, people who were not your stereotypical white male, that sort of thing, always got first cut, no matter if there was someone standing behind them who might be better at the job than they were.
Well, let me explain a little factor. Like when you look at certain actors, and by the way, I don't use the term actress.
Okay.
That's just a me thing, because I feel like if a woman is acting, mm-hmm. she's doing the same thing as a guy who's acting.
Okay.
So I just use the term. I don't know why it's not a whatever. It's just, hey, if you design a house and I design a house, we're both architects. You're not an architectress.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
I don't know why I'm weird about that one, but
okay.
A lot of people in Hollywood have their position thanks to nepotism, right? They're born into
right.
A family that had connections, or
mm-hmm.
they're very close to people who have those connections, and that's a huge factor. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gwyneth Paltrow.
Okay.
Who I'm not saying I'm a mega fan of, but I think she's talented. Mm-hmm. She was born into a pretty good Hollywood family. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? And cool, good for her. She used her connections. And
right, absolutely.
Are you supposed to not use your connections?
Right, no, do what you got to do. That's awesome.
Exactly. That's a huge part of it. And I think what happens in Hollywood, no one is secure in their job. No one. Okay. I'm talking about presidents of studios. I'm talking about heads of networks. Hollywood is in a consistent state of flux in terms of who's in power.
Okay.
So it's never, seriously, if you go to deadline.com and look at who's been hired, who's been fired, who's the new person here, what's her name was just, I apologize, I don't know her name. She's no longer part of the Star Wars franchise. Is it Kelly? I can't remember her last name. I mean, and everyone thought she would be a permanent fixture there.
Right.
Things change. Mm-hmm. So it's not like there's this group of people sitting at the top, like, puppet masters who are orchestrating all of this. That's not how Hollywood is. Hollywood is in a constant state of, what was the last thing you did? How much money did it make?
Interesting. So it sounds like then, because it's almost like it's very, because I love to play the devil's advocate, especially in controversial topics like this, and it's great because it's almost like I love that you're promoting diversity and you're saying hire the person who is best at the job. And on the flip side of that, it almost seems like that's exactly the same thing that's being it's wonderful because that's the conversation now, but it's almost like a lot of people have that viewpoint that it hasn't been. So that's why we're having the conversation of why diversity matters. When you're looking at an actress or an actor or whatever, and what they did and how much money it makes, take Black Panther, for example. There was so much hype over the fact that, yes, this was a black superhero, a primarily black cast, and it made a ton of money, almost like that was like, I don't know, it was like Jesus coming, that people didn't know that it would do that, which was a head scratcher for me, but whatever. So it's almost like, yes, Hollywood is in this state of learning what works, maybe where they didn't know it before for whatever reason. And maybe that conversation around diversity has a big impact on that.
So here's the deal. You hit on something really interesting. So, to me, the internet was a huge world-changing, like game-changing thing for society. And I think the second one was social media.
Okay. Yeah.
And now with Hollywood, there's so much money being invested and poured into digital platforms.
Right.
So, people are saying like, now Netflix is no longer just like, aggregating content. They're now creating, and they've been creating
they're a big competitor.
Content.
They're changing all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Bingo. So the rules on on the platforms of content and how to make a show, and then, where to distribute a show, and then how to monetize the distribution. Those rules, not only have they changed, they consistently change. No one exactly knows what is best because it's in a state of flux right now. And it's a wonderful time to be part of it. So all of the old school rules that did apply for the past, 40, 50 years, yeah, they're done.
On the way out the door, huh? Okay.
Because they have to be. They have to be. You can't have an old school way of thinking when you're going to put a show on a digital platform. Look, I talk with people all the time who are in like their 70s, early 80s, who used to produce content. And the vast majority of them are clueless as to what is going on. They're like, well, explain to me, what is social media?
Right.
And they're looking for a 30-second answer. I'm like, can't do it.
Okay, right. We're going to have to sit down. We're going to have to sit down and have a conversation. Yeah,
exactly. Bring some lunch. Let's really talk this out. And so, and by the way, here's the other thing. Anyone who says they're an expert and know everything about, video distribution or what's called video on demand or VOD and how that interacts with social media, there is no such thing. There are people who have knowledge in that, but the platforms are changing so quickly. Look, Netflix didn't even exist as an online digital provider of content until what, 2008, 2009?
Yeah, I was just about to say it's probably been about like 10 years ago. There wasn't a Netflix.
Right.
Yeah. That was it. So, I mean, you if you wanted to watch TV, you had to get a cable plan. Like that. There wasn't another option.
Right. Yeah. So the whole landscape's changed, and as a result, what's really cool is now there's an opportunity. And what the factor is in quote unquote Hollywood, it's a numbers game and it's about money. It's show business.
Right.
So whatever has to be done to continue to make the business side work, they'll do. And now that more people have access to the content, right? You're going to see, like, One Day at a Time is a remake. I was just told One Day at a Time is a remake of a show from the 70s that had an all-white cast.
Right.
And this remake is, I believe it's a Latin American family.
Perfect.
That is a great example.
Hollywood, it sounds like, is responding to really just us becoming more aware as a culture and having more options to get our media.
Correct.
That's very interesting. That's very, very interesting. I like that. I like that a lot because I think good things come of that. Really good things come of that. More interesting concepts come of that. I like that it lets more people who are different, like you said, different perspectives, have access and the ability to create content now. There's more. I mean, it's the same thing with self-publishing was such a huge thing for writers because now we no longer had to go through these gatekeepers. We could reach readers directly, and that just changed the name of the game, for the publishing industry. So for Hollywood and, just the entertainment industry, just in general, yeah, you're right. Social media is huge.
Well, here's the other thing about the changing landscape, and this is really cool. So I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp. I was lucky enough to go see like a release of that a couple nights ago, and I brought my son with me.
Nice.
And I'm not. It was amazing. It was awesome. And I'm not going to reveal any.
Yep.
What? Yeah,
I'm just excited.
Spoilers. Yeah, you're gonna love it.
Mm-hmm.
And what was really cool is that the two most badass people in the movie
Mm-hmm.
were women.
Love it.
Okay, the
Love it.
badass people were women.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really cool about that is that the way they were in the film, the way they were written in the film,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, of course they were. That makes complete sense.
Mm.
There was no one questioning it. Like, you know how some people when The Force Awakens came out, they were
Yeah.
questioning Rey, and they're
Yes.
like, oh, why are you shoving it
Mary
into this
Sue,
agenda?
blah blah blah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which
The feminist agenda is coming to get you.
right, which by the way I completely disagreed with.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
a good character is a good character, but
Right.
in Ant-Man and the Wasp, what they did is they made it seamless. Like you're like, of course these two people are the most badass. Of course their stories are believable. Of course they are who they are.
Mm.
That's the change. And I know one of the writers,
Mm-hmm.
a guy named Eric Summers, who's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the cool changes in Hollywood is that now you have, women who are the ultimate badasses of the movie, and no one questions it because it works perfectly.
And because you're an MMA fighter, James, so let me because I hear you see this like all the time. Like people will watch John Wick. And great movie, by the way. Love the John Wick series. Absolutely love it. Keanu Reeves is like my dude. Nicest human being on the planet. Nothing but good things to say. But they'll watch John Wick, no question. They'll watch Atomic Blonde, and they lose their mind. They lose their mind. They're like, oh my God, I can't even watch it because it's not realistic. She can't kick a dude like that, blah, 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 blah. So what do you say to people who say that women can't kick ass, in your experience?
Well, obviously women can kick ass.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's if you're a guy living anywhere in the world today and you don't believe that, there's something really mentally deficient about you. I mean, that's just the sky is blue, the ocean's wet, women can kick ass. It's if they have the training or the mentality to do it, they can do it, no questions asked. However,
Mm-hmm.
what John Wick did, I know some of the stunt people he worked with.
Okay.
And what Keanu Reeves did is he immersed himself in that role
Mm-hmm.
to an insane degree. Like he didn't just learn how to move for the stunts. He actually trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for example.
Yeah, he did.
With really good people.
Yeah.
He went to firing ranges to learn combat shooting.
Yeah, he's like a real life badass.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a motorcycle, aficionado.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually was that character in terms of the physicality needed, the stunts, the fighting style. Mm-hmm. I've never seen Atomic Blonde. Is that Charlize Theron?
Yeah, she did the same thing he did. So she did all her stunts in that. She learned it. She basically pulled a Keanu Reeves in what she learned how to do for that movie. Yeah, which was so like because she wanted. So you watch it. It's pretty good. When she was doing that, her question to the stunt guys, and it was David who did movie we just talked about. John Wick also did Atomic Blonde. Her question to all of them was, is this realistic? Could a woman really do that? Can I really flip this guy? And then she did it because they taught her how. Mm-hmm. So it's really, but it's just, if you just watch like fan reactions, it's almost like they both went through the same amount of training, but there's this interesting stigma that's slowly being, I guess, beaten down that women can kick ass. Like, no, she can do this.
Look, I think Charlize Theron is an amazing actor as well. I don't know that much about her work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I haven't seen a lot of it. I remember when she did that one movie, was it Monster, where she portrayed that serial killer or what have you, and she was insanely amazing. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, she's so good.
Yeah. There's, how can I put this nicely? Like, take The Rock.
Okay.
Right? And there's definitely a look to him where you look at that guy and you're like, yes, this guy can kick ass.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And what's really cool about Atomic Blonde is you have this person who looks great, mm-hmm. could be like on the cover of a magazine, mm-hmm. who also kicks ass.
Right.
Here's where I think the film may have gone wrong.
Okay.
That's not different anymore.
Interesting. Okay.
That's not. I haven't seen the movie, and it's not to put down the movie at all, but mm-hmm. When I saw that, I'm like, cool. Here's someone else. I didn't say here's a woman. I said here's someone else, really good looking person who can kick ass and has to kick ass for some reason.
Right.
I don't know about the appeal of that. I don't know. It's like that would have been like if this was like 20 years ago. That would have been like, oh my God, it's insane.
Right. Now you're just like, for you, it's just like, awesome. There's another movie where somebody's kicking ass.
Right. And by the way, I kind of also had that for John Wick until I saw it.
Right. I did too. I did. Yeah, it was just like I went into that with very low expectations and was just pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed it. Like it was really one of those where I'm like, I'm bored. Let me just put this on. Type
Right.
deal. Keanu Reeves is beating somebody up. Awesome. That's like what kind of Keanu Reeves does. Great. And then you're like drawn into it. So yeah, it was interesting. That's interesting. Okay. Well, see it, and then we'll have this conversation again.
Done and
Awesome.
done.
Awesome. All right, James. We literally could have talked for 2 hours. This has been phenomenal. Love
Very
talking
cool.
to you. Yeah, had such a great time. Please promote the heck out of yourself now. Plug yourself, all the stuff that you want people to know, how they can find you, how they can connect with you. Go.
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at James Gabsy, and look us up on iTunes. Type in hashtag Who Would Win to subscribe to the Who Would Win podcast. Also, interact the heck out of it with us on Twitter. Respond to the at Who Would Win Show Twitter account. I also do some cool branded tweets where I have a question of the day where I want people to answer some stuff. I also have my random thought tweet, which is my controversy of the day tweet. Probably posted every Wednesday or so. So feel free to interact. Love to meet you online, and let me know what you think of the show.
Excellent. All right, guys, if you have not listened to the Who Would Win podcast, I said this when I had Jay on. I'm saying it again. Please absolutely listen. And James, I asked Jay this, so I have to ask you, how do you prepare for these debates on who would win to like beat him? Because he seems to think that you're afraid of him and you've got an entire team at your disposal that does all this research. So what do you say to that?
Have you seen Jay in person?
I've seen his picture. All I've got is his Twitter picture.
Yeah, and it's a running joke, and I think Jay's a great guy. I think he's about 5'6". I know he doesn't work out a whole lot, and that's his choice. That's cool. He's from Alabama, which means his diet's probably not the greatest.
Right.
And Southern culture and all that.
Yeah.
He enjoys his food. There's nothing wrong with that. And he's got like the closest thing to what I call an Ellen DeGeneres haircut I've ever seen on a guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, definitely not afraid of him. Let's see. I don't need a team to take him on. I don't need a team. And the reason why I do have a team, but I relish the opportunity. And I don't get to use the word relish a lot, but I relish the opportunity to take him on one-on-one. And all joking aside, the way I prepare for the debates, is the same way I used to prepare for when I would corner a fighter. In a match. So what I do is I look at the person, I kind of take stock of who I'm representing, and I look at the person who Jay's representing, and I have to say, like, okay, what are their weaknesses that can be taken advantage of? Or maybe there's no weakness. What are they not as good at? What can my combatant do to maybe go after their weakness in a different way that no one expects? So whereas Jay might kind of quote some great comic book knowledge, what I'll do is pivot and say, like, hey, that person's the utility belt only holds 12 things, and if there are 13 attacks, they're out of luck.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. Then if all else fails, I'll like make fun of his mom or something like that. Just to throw him off
right. Throw him off his game, right? Because it's a mental game too. So you gotta. Yeah.
And with Jay also, the one thing I will say I do repeatedly is I just ask him a simple question, which is, have you ever been in a fight before? Because I know he hasn't, and that's good. That's good. It's good to, I guess, never been in a fight before, but that way he doesn't he doesn't really understand how fights work, and I can kind of in wherever he's from, educate him a little on how to do this.
I think that's a really great response to that. I want to just make a clip of like the two of you just making fun of each other and just like loop it for all time.
Sure. Yeah,
Fantastic.
But all joking aside, Jay is a great guy. He's super smart. And I hate to say it, but he very often surprises me with what he brings as arguments to these debates.
Yeah, they're great.
And he's in Alabama, I'm in LA, which, by the way, makes me better than Jay just on that fact alone. Right. But while I'm at my computer and we're doing the podcast, I have tons of pieces of paper with like copious amounts of notes. Like double-sided 10 pages of notes, because he's making a statement and I'm researching. I'm like trying to figure out, okay, how do I get around this?
It's like a policy debate round. I understand.
Absolutely, it's crazy.
fantastic. I love it. I love it. One day you guys are gonna do this like live, so we can actually see you like live on like a platform we can see you, and it's gonna be phenomenal. I just want it because I imagine your facial expressions as you guys are going back and forth, and I need this in my life. I need this in my life, James.
I'm working on it. I think I'll be at Comic-Con this year.
Nice.
And we're planning, and because we're so remote from each other, we may be doing like separate live events, and I'm working on doing like panels at certain comic book conventions where it's a Who Would Win event.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, so many exciting things for the Who Would Win family. Stay tuned for that, y'all. Awesome. James, thank you again so much for being on the podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Everybody who was listening, thank you for sticking in. As always, please sound off in the comments about this, what you liked, what you didn't like, who you think is the better debater. Are you Team James? Are you Team Jay? Do you not care? We want to know. And I will see you guys next month. Thanks for listening to the Woo Hour podcast. This podcast airs monthly over on the website inthemindofcrystalstorm.com. You can support this work and other creative content by visiting our Patreon page, patreon.com/mindofacreator. We'll talk to you next month.